Welcome to North Korea, a land shrouded in mystery and secrecy. It's a country where the government controls every aspect of life, from the food you eat to the thoughts you think. Imagine waking up every day knowing that your every move is being watched, your every word monitored. This is the reality for the 25 million people living under the iron grip of the Kim dynasty. As we journey through this series, we'll uncover the harsh realities of life in the most secretive state on earth. Buckle up, because what you're about to see might just make you appreciate your own freedoms a little bit more. Let's start with something near and dear to all of our hearts, shall we? The internet. Well, in North Korea, the internet as we know it basically doesn't exist. Forget about scrolling through Instagram or catching up on your favorite YouTubers. Instead, North Koreans are stuck with a heavily censored, government-controlled intranet known as Kwangmyong. It's essentially a walled garden of state-approved websites, carefully curated to keep any dangerous ideas like freedom or democracy out. Oh, and did I mention you need government permission to even access this digital wonderland? Because you do. It's the kind of control that would make even Mark Zuckerberg blush. Imagine this. You walk into your living room and staring back at you from a place of prominence on the wall is a portrait. Not of a beloved family member or a cherished pet, but of the country's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. Creepy, right? Well, in North Korea, it's not just creepy, it's the law. Every single household is legally required to display portraits of the country's past leaders, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, alongside their current glorious leader. And not just any old portraits either. We're talking those official, airbrushed to perfection, slightly terrifying in their intensity portraits. Citizens are expected to keep these portraits clean, well-maintained, and treat them with the utmost respect. Failure to do so? Well, let's just say it's best not to find out. Here in the good old US of A, we have this little thing called the Eighth Amendment. It protects us from cruel and unusual punishment. Sadly, they don't have the Eighth Amendment in North Korea. In fact, they have something far more sinister: the 3 generations of punishment rule. Basically, if you commit a crime in North Korea, it's not just you who pays the price. Oh no, it's your entire family, your parents, your children, even your grandchildren could be held accountable for your actions. It's a horrifying system designed to crush any dissent before it even begins. You know that feeling, right? The urge to just hop in your car and hit the open road, to feel the wind in your hair as you explore new places and meet new people. Yeah, well, in North Korea, you can pretty much kiss that feeling goodbye. Because in the DPRK, freedom of movement is about as common as a unicorn riding a roller coaster made of rainbows. You need government permission to travel anywhere outside your home city. Want to visit your family in the next province? Better get your paperwork in order and hope the government approves. And even then, there's no guarantee. This restriction on internal travel isn't just inconvenient. It's a way for the government to control its population. By limiting movement, they limit the spread of information, ideas, and any potential opposition. Want to call your friend overseas and tell them about this insane law? Well, you better hope they have a North Korean phone number, because making unauthorized international calls is strictly verboten. We're not talking about racking up roaming charges here, folks. We're talking about serious consequences: imprisonment, torture, even death. The government wants to keep its citizens isolated from the outside world, and that includes preventing any unauthorized communication with foreigners. In many countries, military service is seen as a noble calling, a way to serve one's country and protect its freedoms. In North Korea, it's less of a choice and more of an obligation. For men, it's a grueling 10-year commitment. That's right, a full decade of their lives dedicated to serving in the military. And for women, well, it's no walk in the park either. They face a mandatory 7-year service requirement. This isn't about protecting the nation. It's about control. It's about molding citizens into obedient soldiers, ready to follow orders without question. The North Korean constitution may technically guarantee freedom of religion, but that's about as believable as a Kim Jong-un tweet praising the virtues of democracy. The truth is, religion is heavily restricted in North Korea. The only faith that's truly tolerated is the worship of the Kim family. Christianity in particular is seen as a threat, and practicing it can have dire consequences. Possessing a Bible, attending an underground church service, even praying in the privacy of your own home can land you in hot water. Hot, boiling, gulag-flavored water. Remember when I talked about North Korea's very own version of the internet? Well, their control over information doesn't stop there. In fact, it extends to all forms of media. Television, radio, newspapers, they're all tightly controlled by the government. Every news story, every television show, every radio jingle is carefully curated to promote the regime's agenda. Think of it as state-sponsored propaganda on steroids. The information citizens receive is filtered, manipulated, and often outright fabricated to paint a rosy picture of North Korea and its leaders while demonizing the rest of the world. It's a masterclass in manipulation. You'd think in a country facing widespread famine and economic hardship, the last thing on people's minds would be fashion. But you'd be wrong, because even something as personal as how you choose to dress is strictly regulated in North Korea. Forget about expressing your individuality through your clothing choices. The government has a very specific idea of what's considered acceptable attire, and deviating from those norms can have serious consequences. Want to rock a pair of skinny jeans? Tough luck, they're considered a symbol of Western decadence. Even the length of your hair is regulated, with a limited number of approved hairstyles for both men and women. Hidden away in the mountains of North Korea are places so horrific, so brutal, that they defy description. These are the Kwanliso, the country's notorious political prison camps. These aren't your average prisons, folks. They're essentially modern-day concentration camps, where an estimated 80,000 to 120,000 people are held as political prisoners. Inside these camps, prisoners are subjected to unimaginable cruelty, forced labor, starvation rations, torture, and public executions. It's a living hell, a place where human rights are violated on an industrial scale. You know that saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, in North Korea, that's not just polite advice, it's the law. Criticizing the government, the supreme leader, or even the country's policies is strictly prohibited. And when I say prohibited, I mean it could land you and your entire family in a world of trouble. The government has zero tolerance for dissent, and they've created an atmosphere of fear so pervasive that most citizens wouldn't dare utter a word of criticism, even in private. Remember all those amazing movies and TV shows you've enjoyed over the years? The ones that make you laugh, cry, and everything in between? Well, chances are people in North Korea have never even heard of them. Access to foreign media is severely restricted. Want to watch the latest Hollywood blockbuster? Forget it. The government wants to control the information its citizens are exposed to, and that means keeping out any outside influences that might challenge their carefully constructed narrative. Every few years, North Korea holds elections, and on the surface it might seem like a beacon of democracy in an otherwise authoritarian state. But there's a catch. A big, fat Kim Jong-un-shaped catch. You see, in North Korea, elections aren't exactly a free and fair contest of ideas. There's only one candidate on the ballot for each position, and that candidate is always a member of the ruling Workers' Party. Oh, and did I mention that voting is mandatory? In North Korea, the concept of private property is essentially non-existent. Sure, you might live in a house or an apartment, but you don't actually own it. It belongs to the state, and they can take it away from you at any moment. The same goes for businesses, land, and pretty much everything else. The government controls the means of production, and citizens are essentially tenants in their own lives. It's a system designed to keep people dependent on the state, limiting their freedom and ensuring their compliance. At the heart of North Korea's legal system lies a simple, terrifying truth. Kim Jong-un has absolute power. He's not just the head of state, he's considered the supreme leader, the ultimate authority on all matters. His word is law, and his decisions are unquestionable. Think about that for a moment. One man with no real checks on his power controls the lives of millions. He decides what they eat, what they wear, where they live, and what they believe. It's a level of control that's difficult to comprehend. Look, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the human rights abuses happening in North Korea. It's enough to make you want to throw your hands up in despair and resign yourself to the fact that there's nothing we can do to change it. But here's the thing, we can't give up hope. We can't turn a blind eye to the suffering of the North Korean people. Because even in the darkest of times, even under the most oppressive regimes, the human spirit has a way of enduring. So let's stay informed, let's raise awareness, and let's continue to fight for a day when the people of North Korea are finally free to live their lives with dignity, respect, and the fundamental human rights that have been denied to them for far too long.